When we look at the Christmas story, most of what we know from Luke 2. That's Luke gives the most complete account of the birth of Jesus. Most of the Christmas stories, and it's from Luke 2, and of course that's where we get Caesar Augustus' decree, Joseph and Mary going from Galilee, Nazareth in Galilee in the north, down to or up geographically to Jerusalem for a census, where Jesus is born. No room in the inn, which means probably no Airbnbs available. And so they end up in a stable. Jesus is born in a barn, put in a manger. There are the fantastic things of angels in the sky and heavenly choruses and all of that. And we usually end that with around verse 19 and 20 with Mary pondering all these things in her heart, treasuring all these things in her heart, pondering them, and the shepherds returning, glorifying, and praising God. But right after that, in Luke 2, there's a little passage that often doesn't get read. It happened about 40 days later that reflects something, and we don't get a lot of details. We don't know anything about these two people that are mentioned there, aside from this one mention in Luke 2, but both older people, one named Simeon and then a widow named Anna, who are people, we don't know much of anything about Simeon except that it says that he was a devout man and that he was waiting on the consolation of Israel. So we know that for both of them, their hope was in the Lord, trusting in Him and waiting for the Messiah. Basically holding on to this promise in the context of everything that looked like they had been maybe abandoned, but believing otherwise because God had promised. God gave them a glimpse of what it might look like as all they had. And they held to that because their hope was not in this world. So again, with our tendency to focus on ourselves and our preoccupation with our own control and comfort and desired outcomes, I think it's worth noting that these are two people whose hope was in the Lord. Nothing changed for them circumstantially. The one blessing that they received that many did not is that they were there when it happened, and they were able to see it with their own eyes. But their entire lives up to this point, all they had to hold to was a promise, and they were holding to it. And that is what enabled them, I believe, to see it when it happened. And one of the things we talk about, holding to the promises of God. God's made promises. God is faithful. And oftentimes it's not until something doesn't work out the way we think that faithfulness would work it out that we even think about it. But the reality is, not only when we seek to understand the promises of God, but when we're actually looking for them, when we're looking for evidences of God's goodness, when we're looking for fulfillments of these promises, and we can testify to those things and draw others' attention to them, is one of the things often we miss out on.